2077, they voted my city the worst place to live in America. Main issues, sky-high rate of violence, and more people living below the poverty line than anywhere else.
What do you even say about Cyberpunk? A game that has been in the cultural zeitgeist one way or another for years that pretty much everybody has made their mind up about. I was going to talk about the board game and the 2012 announcement. I was going to get into the hype surrounding its release, the delays, the hard state during its first years of existence and everything else. I was going to do a proper review after 4 years, highlighting both the good and the not so good. I was going to be mild and let people draw their own conclusions. But then I thought, who honestly wants that? Who at this point doesn't think that this is just a half-baked GTA clone, or one of the best narrative-driven games ever made? Who doesn't know that the game is not even close to what it promised to be, or have learned to accept the compromise? No. If you're here, it's either because you legitimately enjoy this divisive game, and are wondering why so many people are still hating on it, or you're here because you just can't understand why so many people were willing to accept it then, and are overselling it now. People were already hyped way before this was even on the horizon.
You're breathtaking!
Especially with Witcher 3 and Blood and Wine being such great hits. They kind of forgot about the state in which the game came out. But that's okay, right? They learn from their mistakes. This is such a bigger product that's been hyped up for such a long time. There's no way they're gonna... they're just making sure the game is up to scratch, right? You can't really blame them for wanting it to be ready for prime time. Now, I know you're all impatient. You've been waiting for this for 8 years. That trailer, it had no gameplay footage, but it looks and sounds amazing, right? Imagine, after all these delays, how much better the actual game will be compared to... Is this still coming out? It says something about gold. What does that mean? Do we do that for video games? Is this just gonna be some kind of musical album? No, I'm not an industry expert. They know what they're doing. If they need this time to make it work, then they should take it. I'm sure it's gonna be great. Psst. Hey, I can't really talk too much about this, and I'm not directly involved, but you have to listen to me. This game is in an awful state. I've been testing it. I know what the marketing says. I know what the media says. But this game just doesn't work. Whatever you do, do not buy it. Oh, you know me. I never pre-order until I see the reviews, wink. Oh god. Oh no. So here we are. The game is out after a plethora of delays, and is it what they promised? No. RPG? What's that? No, this was never that. This is an open-world action-adventure game. Have you not seen our Twitter? Immersive AI? What even is that? You know this is not actually 2077, right? God, I swear gamers, you just can't be happy. Why are you all so entitled? Yeah, etc, etc. No reason in beating a dead horse. At least on release, Cyberpunk2077 is pretty much unanimously viewed as a complete disaster, and not even the most ardent, buyer's remorse-ridden evangelist could defend it. There were some talks about investors trying to get the game out the door, despite it not being ready. There was also some controversy with a QA firm that was apparently spamming them with irrelevant minor bugs because of a daily bug quota. But let's be honest, CD Projekt Red were already banking on consumers just accepting them patching in fixes later, and still, they couldn't even assign one person managing priorities for fixing their visibly hopeless game, and would rather just blame an external developer instead? Give me a break. Some patches did eventually come in, fixing some of the more visible problems, and that was enough to make the buyer's remorse crowd not feel completely pathetic defending this dumpster fire anymore. And I know the arguments like, no, this is already good because the story is so fucking good, bro, trust me, but let me argue something else instead. First of all, the hype surrounding this wasn't around this narrative. It was around its allegedly revolutionary gameplay.
But not just a regular Cyberpunk game, on the Cyberpunk game. Let me tell you right now, I think what really matters to gamers, gripping non-linear story. Advanced RPG mechanics, another very important point for a lot of you out there, different character classes to choose from.
Second, I also have my problems with the story, but let's just take this at face value. The game had poor performance, it was bare bones compared to much older competitors, and it didn't even come close to delivering on its promises. So, Edgerunners comes out in 2022 during the gritty western cartoon phase, and people love it for good reason too. It has good quality, good characters, a captivating story, and a memorable ending. But it's just so fucking short. People want more, so what do we have? Board game? No. This was a good time to check back in with Cyberpunk. Phantom Liberty is out, and along with it, the long-anticipated 2.0 update, which supposedly adds a lot of the missing content back into the game. Now you may call me skeptical, or God forbid, cynical, but there was a pretty large amount of content missing on release. I severely doubt this statement. And I was gonna sit here being an asshole with the promised features subreddit open, calling the missing ones out one by one, but I feel like if you're still here watching this after all this abuse, then you will mostly agree with me. Most of the stuff that came out with 2.0 is just fixed or improved versions of what's already in the game. Sure, you can get more apartments, sure there's some car customization, but most of that is already in most games in this genre and it's just not interesting. What about the AI?
From 3 different gangs. Somehow they all found out about each other. Ooh.
Yeah, police doesn't just ninja teleport on top of you anymore, but they did make it worse at the last level by just having them Avada fucking Kedavra you out of nowhere. Enemy AI in general is still kind of generic and uninspired. They just sit there behind cover because they can just shoot you if they see 1 pixel of your stupid bald head, and if they don't, they just send out 1 or 2 guns to storm your cover. They introduce netrunner enemies that are interesting because they can hack you through cameras and through their allies that can see you. That also opens up your netrunner skill tree to do all sorts of shenanigans. Too bad it also opens up enemy snipers to just sniping you through the fucking wall. What else? The driving's still garbage. PDs are still boring. It's still just Cyberpunk, except maybe not as embarrassing. So why are we here? Is the story any good? At this point, you shouldn't be expecting too many kind words about Cyberpunk, but for what it's worth, and despite my problems with it, the story is probably the only reason why we'd ever want to play the game in the first place. I will be talking about some plot points, mostly early, but also a bit later into the story, so if you don't want spoilers, go to here. So we start off by picking one of the 3 available paths in the game's attempt at fooling you into thinking that choices matter, and then play a short 20 to 30 minute intro based on the choice you made. So what did I mean by this? For now, all you have to know is that essentially choosing your life path doesn't do anything. It allows for some extra, mostly blue dialogue options in some conversations, keeping in mind that, unlike something like New Vegas, where you could actually get a different outcome in a mission, or some extra rewards for passing a dialogue check, the blue options are there just for flavor. They don't even progress the conversation. In the same vein, you sometimes get skill checks in dialogue based on the attributes you have, and these have much of the same nothing outcome most of the time. Regardless of what you chose, after a brief presentation of your situation before the events of the story, you get to meet your first companion, Jackie. Together, you go on a slew of adventures with the purpose of making a name for yourself in Night City. But don't worry, all of them happen in a montage, because you're not here to have fun with something like that, right? You get the gig of a lifetime from the man, the myth, the legend, Fat Fuck himself, and you get to meet some of the other VIPs that you'll be interacting with throughout the entire game, and that will definitely not die for character development very early on. You hear the words biz and deets at least 1 too many times, you do some boring setup and are presented with the illusions of choice for the first time, and then it's time for the main event.
Just hope they didn't see us.
Of course everything goes wrong. You witness one of the worst plot elements in recent history. Most of the characters that had any semblance of chance of making you care throughout the story die. And then you get shot in the head just so they make you forget about Cyberpunk for a second and maybe think of New Vegas again instead. So let's talk about this plot point for a second. You witness Kid Arasaka strangle Daddy Arasaka from inside his walls. This is a universe where important people have high-tech medivacs teleported to their locations within 15 seconds of their mouth becoming a bit too dry. A 1984 hell universe where they have surveillance cameras in elevators, in your bathroom, and probably inside your own asshole. And you're telling me this guy choked his own dad, owner of the biggest company in the universe, by the way, in his own room without being spotted by any security cameras. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say all the security cameras were disabled because of the mission, even though you can see them working throughout the mission, and sometimes you have to disable them yourself. This guy gets poisoned inside his own room, and you can't find any trace of the poison in his autopsy or on any of the glasses that he used to drink within the room. Okay. So you drag yourself out of the junkyard after what could have been days, just in time to see Fat Fuck meet his maker.
Heavier than he looks. Now, listen, dog. I have done exactly what you asked. So let's you and me figure this.
You're forced to participate in a car chase fight, which I'm pretty sure still gets resolved by itself if you don't do anything. You get back to Victor's to get a dose of why you were probably better off just sleeping in the junkyard for a few more days. You get the red pill and the blue pill from hipster Morpheus. And then you wake up to meet your new headmate Keanu Reeves, playing Keanu Reeves. Turns out, that relic that Jackie lovingly inserted into your moist-awaiting orifice was the personality of the legend of the afterlife himself, Johnny Silverhand. And because of some unexplained problems with the prototype, his consciousness is rewriting your own, slowly and irreversibly. Now, you may want to sit down because I'm about to become subjective. This game was planned to be an open-world, choices matter RPG where you make your own character, you transpose yourself into the game world to say, and this is the plot they came up with? The journey of you becoming a different character? Is this a joke? Would that be interesting in a movie setting? Sure, maybe, but this is a video game. Now, you may argue stuff like, it's interesting because they've never done this in a video game before, and that may be true, except is this really the medium to be exploring something like this? You could spin it into something interesting, like a relationship between player and player character kind of thing, but it doesn't do that at all. From your perspective, being V or being Johnny Silverhand does not change the game in any way, shape, or form. For example, say they have a mechanic where you could actually take the drug that makes your condition progress faster, and that fundamentally changes the way your character acts and the dialogue choices you get. Maybe at some point, if Johnny's consciousness gets over a certain percent of your brain, you don't even get to make choices anymore, or you start losing control of your character. Maybe all of this could be a punishment. Maybe if you play the game properly, then you maintain a high percentage of your own consciousness, and then you don't get any consequences while playing. There's so many interesting things they could have done with the concept, and instead they did nothing. But for the sake of argument, let's just say they had all that in mind, but there was just no time, or they didn't have the technology to implement something as ambitious as that. Let's say they went full narrative and wanted to tell this story in the most basic way possible and just give you a hint of what slowly losing your identity would feel like. Let's say you relate to your main character because it's you. You want to get Keanu Reeves outside of your body while screaming no homo. But the game has no sense of urgency. The only part of the game where the plot doesn't feel like it's pushing you to solve your issue is in the intro, but there's a problem. Most side content is locked during the intro, so at some point you're forced to put yourself into this position. Yeah, I sure am invested in dealing with this fast-acting terminal illness that the game keeps reminding me about, but first, let me just help this taxi out with his MPD. On the other side, let's say you don't really care about V because he's an empty shell of a character with no personality, probably because he was designed that way. In which case, you just go on ahead, taking your time, doing the fun stuff, while Johnny slowly makes himself comfortable in your cerebellum, and thus cementing that the game failed to make you care about the main character's predicament.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams.
Actually, that could have been a good way to go about it. Let's say, during your first playthrough, you just let Johnny take over, and then in a sort of New Game Plus, you just play as Johnny from the beginning, doing the same thing, the same side quest, but this time you don't get pushed from the back for no reason. But anyway, regardless of which side of the wall you are on, the biggest problem is the pacing, caused by an open world design, which was half-baked and nigh abandoned anyway. But here I am, talking your ear off about the plot in a fucking video game. If I wanted to waste my time with boring mechanics to just experience a story, I would have watched a movie. Or, God forbid, played the David Cage game. The plot is the least important aspect of a video game, and I will die on this hill, damn it.
That's the glory of it all.
That's the best part. Well, that's the neat part. You don't.
So, well, that looks.
You're
Nice.
high as fuck.
Teleported or something?
Oh, break legs. Break legs.
What about those juicy choices that I was talking about earlier? Well, let's see. You have a few options in the intro that change the outcome of a few of the characters that get you a whopping 1 mission each. You get to decide the fate of a faction that has no contact or interactions after the main quest they're involved in. The way you treat Silverhand affects a bond meter of sorts that may unlock one ending, but they fucked even that up by giving you a bunch of meter in the DLC for obvious choices. I mean, sure, if you want to be anal about it, there are plenty of choices that affect mostly dialogue, are shallow and self-contained so they never come up again after making them, but they make you go, ooh, I don't remember that happening for a split second, in the insane case where you actually go back to play this soon enough after the first time. Actually, let's talk about the DLC a bit too. It's honestly just more of the same, but just that little bit worse. Your choices again only affect self-contained situations and have no impact on the city or the story after being done with them. One of the side quests in Dogtown is helping a fixer take over the city basically after the events of the story. He talks your ear off throughout the DLC about his dislike of the current mayor of Dogtown and how he would change things for the better. You can even return to Dogtown at the end of the events of the DLC and see the consequences of him taking leadership being nothing. Actually, the only option that matters is the one for the ending, and that comes up in the second to last mission, completely unaffected by any of the previous choices you've made. For good measure, they erode the RPG tag a bit more by cucking Netrunner stealth builds with endless forced combat sections and boss fights. The narrative itself plays on being a mystery thriller, but you get no clue as to what is actually happening with most characters. All of them, with no exceptions, are hiding stuff and lying to you at all times, and you have little to no agency throughout the entire plot.
Could always be worse.
I also wanted to talk about the endings, and how most of them are just kind of miserable and hopeless, but that would be more subjective stuff, and I'm kind of done with being subjective. I know I've been extremely negative in my rant, but honestly, there are some good things in Cyberpunk. Most of the moral dilemmas in the side quests are interesting, especially to go back and see the different outcomes. A lot of the side quests in the base game are funny.
Stop where you are!
Easy. Here to help.
Not one step closer!
Hey!
Some of the guns look like they would feel good to use, but then they just kind of don't. And for what it's worth, the extremely late game cars do feel good to drive. I don't particularly care for it, but I'm sure you can use mods to make the gameplay more fluid and enjoyable as well. Bottom line is, does all of this make the game worth playing? No. Is it worth praising a product that, on release, screwed over everyone that pre-purchased it, or purchased it on old-gen consoles even though the marketing led you to believe that it was built with them in mind? No. Is it worth calling a product that was sold through lies and hype that it cannot live up to this very day one of the best games ever made? No. I personally am firmly on the side of this being a failed product that should have come with a lot more consequences for CD Projekt Red than it did, and I feel like the numbers agree with me. Most people didn't come back even when the game quote-unquote got good, and that I feel puts the evangelists in a small minority. Now, don't get me wrong, CD Projekt Red can still course correct with their future games and people can like what they like. If you can appreciate the product you pay for without lying to yourself, then that's great for everyone. But I feel like there's a poison in the industry that's not the usual corrupted CEOs and greedy investors, and instead is coming from the consumers themselves. Some people are willing to accept the game for all its faults just because it got better within an, in my opinion, unacceptable time frame. You wouldn't feel the same if you bought a fridge and had someone come and disturb you in your house to fix it 2 years later and then it still didn't keep your Mountain Dew cold enough. Since the game came out, and especially with the DLC and this review, I've already completed the game twice on the hardest difficulty, but that's just because I felt like I wanted to get a good enough perspective. And also, I am a sick man who definitely hasn't gotten enough ribbons on my volcano science projects when I was a kid. But having said that, and with CD Projekt Red's announcement that Phantom Liberty is the first and only DLC for Cyberpunk2077, I can safely say that this is the last time I will ever interact with this video game ever again. I hope I got my points across, at least semi-coherently, and between thumbs down and mail bombs delivered to my house, I hope at least I made you think about what your expectations should be for video games going forward. And with that, I'll see you next time. What about those juicy choice? What about those juicy...